Want any kind of applause. I know this person would not like that. But Brent, he's the one that made sure that this was a celebration of life and not something drab and dreary. He also made sure that, in addition to making today special, that every holiday was special. Every New Year's, every Christmas, every Thanksgiving, and every President's Day and every other holiday. Brent made it a point because Grandma was like his own grandma. And there are many of you who know older folks who are relegated to the corner of a house, and they might be taken in, or they might be in a home, or they might live far away. But Brent, in particular, spent many nights away from his own family to make Grandma his own. And what you see today is just a small portion of what happens at home. The first thing he does when he comes home is check on Grandma, even if I'm out of town, and he reports back. The first thing we do when we go to, the last thing we do before we go to bed is check on Grandma. And that's something that Brent did not sign up for, but he took the circumstance with his whole heart and made it his own. So thank you, Brent. And I love you for it. 2 weeks ago today, Brent and Ken, I was out of town, took Grandma to the ER for her last visit. And the Spirit moved us to begin a conversation that we hope would never happen, but we knew always would. Thanks to the methodical nature of my teachers, Ms. Pearson, Ms. Barclay, we knew never to waste any time. And so, with the parallel process of calling in services to help us give Grandma the dignity that she deserved, we also came out here to look at the facilities. There's 3 chapels on site. And yes, we've had some plans already made, but there are ones that we hope we'd never have to we'd ever have to entertain. And I kept on. There was this. So you guys probably think that I make all of Grandma's decisions, and that could not be further from the truth. I'm just a translator. Grandma would make her own choices about her health care, about her activities, where she would go, what she would do. And we were only stewards of what she wanted. But in this moment, because she was not well for the first time in ever, I had to make sure that we were making the choices that she would have wanted for, today. And so I said, Brent, we have to have church pews like her mom's funeral in 1993. We need to have an open casket because that's what her mom had. She needs to wear brighter colors because she's over 80, and that's the protocol in our Cantonese culture. We need to do this or that because it's tradition and it's custom, and Grandma is old school. But then unfortunately the pews weren't available because this room's not so equipped. She didn't look the best in red, although she did not dislike it. She looks great in greens and blues and whites. And there were other aspects of her final arrangements that I thought would never be perfect, no matter how great they were. Then I got to thinking, how traditional really was Grandma? She lived in a house with 2 men. She would never miss an episode of RuPaul's Drag Race. And also when her daughter in 1978 had a hysterectomy, so passionately wanted a child to have of her own, she broke with traditional norm of old Chinese custom and encouraged my mom towards adoption. And she had shared with me that in the Adopt a Chinese Baby book, she said, out of all the pages, she said, you should pick this one, Darlene. He has big round eyes. I've seen the picture and all I saw was a big round head. But because of her encouragement to break with traditional norm and the love of my mom and my dad, they gave me a life that an orphan from a foreign land could never have dreamed of. And I'm so grateful for her to push those boundaries. She received a grandson that was unfailingly loyal. She picked up a family of 3 people in one household with no blood relation, but we operated as a family union together, and that's so special. And she also obtained a chosen family. Many of you in this room have seen her over the years and adopted her as your own grandma. There are grandmas in this room, and actually there's a great grandma in this room, who still calls grandma grandma. She's just so special that she had to be shared. Elsie is in the room, a friend of mine from flight school 22 years ago. And when I embarked on that journey, Mom was not very happy about it. Grandma was not very happy about it. I think Grandma said, "Why can't you be a mailman so you can come home to lunch with me every day?" I was so excited about my new endeavor. I didn't know if I was going to do that or if it was just a phase. I actually wanted to be a band director or a doctor or a cop. But the first chance I got to solo and choose where my flight path would take me, I wanted to take it over the house in Sugar Creek. My mom and grandma did not leave the house very much during that time period. And so we didn't have GPS, but I just looked out the window and tried to fly along the 59 corridor and somehow exit Dairy Ashford and see if I could find our house. And I remember calling my mom on the Motorola StarTAC that I had. "Mom, I'll be over the house in like 15 minutes. Look out." And I made my best to identify the house as much as possible. They pretty much all look the same. I couldn't see anybody on the ground, and I looked down and I'm not looking up, which would not be good. But as soon as I landed, I called her again on the cell phone. I'm like, "Mom, did you see me?" She said, "Yes." "Grandma, did you see me?" She said, "Yes." "Mom, what'd you think?" She said, "It was like a flying lawnmower." And Grandma said to me something that every teenage boy needs to hear. "I was so proud of you." When I was younger, Grandma would make my lunch for school every day. It was usually a turkey sandwich, turkey and cheese. I didn't particularly like it. I liked going to the hot lunch line, not because I liked the food, but because I liked to chat with the cafeteria ladies. My favorite was Rosie. And I'd usually get the casserole because that was the leftovers from yesterday. And it was $1.35. I would go off to school at whatever time, and my mom did dialysis at home, so she would get up early to give me my $1.35 so I could go to the lunch line. My dad never knew about it. Sometime later, my mom passed away, and I wasn't going to school, but I still left the house to go to work. And before I caught the 5 o'clock flight to Newark, Grandma would come down the stairs and make sure I got my $1.35 lunch. She made sure that I wasn't going to feel like an orphan after losing a mother. The $1.35 did not go very far through. After Mom passed, I did feel some despair. But Grandma made sure that I would be looked after, provided for. And at some point I thought it was only going to be the food. But it was the love, it was the companionship. It was, every time I look at Grandma, I see my mom in her face. And I'm going to miss that for sure. There was some role reversal as she got older and she started losing some of her abilities. She never really drove, and she pretty much always walked and cooked and talked and did a lot of things on her own. But she needed an advocate that would be able to speak her language. And Angela, thank you for those beautiful words. You didn't have to speak English to understand what Grandma had to say. She spoke love. And many of you, all of you actually, have either been with her in the kitchen or in our home, or visited with her at dialysis, or cared for her here and there, or took her out to a restaurant. And you didn't have to speak Cantonese Toisan dialect. All you had to speak was, "I'll eat whatever you put in front of me." Sometimes I feel guilty thinking about when Aunt Cheryl passed away. It was shocking, it was awful, but also it meant Grandma was moving in with me. Brent and Ken can attest to the dichotomy of balancing the sadness of losing my aunt at a young age. She was at a young age. With the joy of having Grandma in my home finally. My pal was finally back. And the chosen family had been reunited. And 3 people who look different, act different, and are different were again living together as a family, and there was so much love there. I think about, and Jeff, you are Grandma's second favorite pastor.
Wait a minute.
You were still in East Texas back then, but she really does like Joel Osteen. and she may not know all the words that he would say, but she liked that. Well, as she would say, he opens his mouth and words come out, and it's so beautiful. And often to describe, if I were to speak for her, she would count it all joy, everything. The ups and the downs, the good and the bad. And she just operated with, as you know, a servant's heart and a warrior spirit for whatever adversity came to her. And I know that she was inspiration to many of you, definitely was to us. And she inspired numerous patients at our center. There would oftentimes be patients that are half her age that were facing this adversity of a lifetime. And then they'd see her come in with her cowboy hat. They'd see her come in her Starbucks outfit with that smile that radiates from her whole heart. And she let them know that it's going to be okay. พออีกด้านหนึ่ง我ชอบพูดจาก你是阿里外，然後講佢啲人平時呢嘛我ชอบ我好少我少家冇咁嘛我聽懂啦，但你最你會阿里外，你嘛我做20個年啦，有你教我好多嘢，我唔識煮飯好似你咁好啊。But he got what joy Brent, you got Brent, we can make a Charlie Fun can now. He's gonna cook the tomato beef. You got him soy sao Thai An Fun Siang, soy silent. Nim soy sao Matela, you got my day, then job I lola. The oil they come home, come to them. Kiss a tucking and the best friend love. 有而家休息，有你有黑人全人媽，有阿姨，有你個老公，而家嗨我哋，有我哋就有人阿姨，我哋晒啦 ，I love you very much。